The Galactic Military Academy of the Unified Star Systems prided itself on three things: its immaculate floating campus that orbited the gas giant Mephiron, its unparalleled combat simulation technology, and its 100% graduation rate. That last statistic was about to take a historic nosedive. Commander Vex'thor adjusted his ceremonial rank emblems as he prepared for the day's lecture. 6 primary appendages, what humans might generously call arms if they weren't covered in a chitinous purple exoskeleton, worked simultaneously to organize his teaching materials. His central eye ridge pulsed with the deep crimson of anticipation. Computer status of Lecture Hall Omega. Lecture Hall Omega is at 99% capacity, Commander. All third-cycle cadets present except Cadet Grundle, who is in the medical bay after attempting to impress a potential mate by consuming 17 nutrition spheres simultaneously. Vex'thor's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Typical. Record the session for his mandatory viewing. This particular lesson is non-negotiable. The Academy's annual Know Your Enemy lecture series was Vex'thor's personal favorite. After covering the predictable military tactics of the crystalline hive mind of Sector 12 and the telepathic gas clouds of the Vermilion Quadrant, they had finally reached the lecture most cadets treated as light entertainment: the curious case of planet Earth. As Vex'thor entered the massive amphitheater, 500 of the Empire's most promising military cadets snapped to attention, a rippling wave of various appendages, tentacles, and gravitational manipulation organs moving in perfect unison. He acknowledged them with a curt nod and gestured for them to sit. At ease, cadets. Today's subject is Threat Classification C-1426, commonly referred to as humans from the planet they call Earth. I notice many of you are displaying the ultraviolet markings of amusement. Fascinating. Perhaps Cadet Clixor would care to share what's so entertaining. A lanky, six-legged cadet with iridescent scales froze mid-snicker. Well, sir, with all due respect, they're humans. Their planetary defensive capabilities consist primarily of pointy metal sticks and explosive powder. Their most advanced spacecraft barely reached their own satellite. They spend more resources on creating artificial mating pheromones than on unified planetary defense. Suppressed clicking and whistling, the alien equivalent of laughter, rippled through the hall. I see. Vex'thor's voice remained deadly calm. And you believe this makes them insignificant? Sir, their entire civilization runs on burning fossils. They haven't even developed basic telepathy. Their strongest specimens can barely lift 500 kilograms. And their primary means of faster-than-light travel is fiction. Clixor's upper appendages spread wide in a gesture of dismissive superiority. Vex'thor's central eye ridge dimmed to a dangerous deep purple. Tell me, Cadet Clixor, have you ever wondered why, despite their obvious technological inferiority, Earth remains classified as Do Not Approach in our exploration directives? That silenced the room. Near the back, a particularly attentive cadet named Zrilex tilted her sensory membranes forward. Unlike her cohort of privileged military offspring, Zrilex came from the outer colonies, places where survival depended on recognizing threats before they announced themselves. Something in the commander's tone triggered her instincts. Today's lecture will be different, Vex'thor continued. The High Command has authorized me to share intercepted footage from Earth's information networks. This content is classified and has been approved for educational purposes only. He pressed a sequence on his command module. The lights dimmed, and the massive holographic projection field hummed to life. What you are about to see is from the human's own historical archives. This is not simulation. This is not entertainment. This is how humans wage war. The cadets shifted in their seats, still amused but growing curious. Zrilex, however, felt her dorsal spines tingle with apprehension. There was something in the commander's demeanor, a tension she'd never seen before. I should warn you, Vex'thor added, his voice uncharacteristically solemn. After this lecture, your understanding of potential threats in our galaxy will be irrevocably changed. Some previous classes have found this material disturbing. A wave of dismissive confidence swept through the room. These were elite military cadets after all. They had studied the membrane-dissolving techniques of the void parasites and witnessed the planet-cracking technologies of the now extinct Magnetor Collective. How bad could some primitive primates possibly be? Commander Vex'thor's mandibles formed what might have been a smile. Let us begin. The holographic field flickered and resolved into what appeared to be ancient footage, grainy, two-dimensional, and monochromatic. Several cadets actually laughed out loud. Sir, called out a gelatinous cadet named Flux, I believe your projector is malfunctioning. This appears to be pre-digital historical documentation. The projector is functioning perfectly, Cadet, Commander Vex'thor replied coolly. This footage dates to what humans call their World War era. approximately 80 of their solar cycles ago. The footage showed lines of humans in primitive uniforms charging across muddy terrain. Explosions erupted around them as they fell by the dozens. "Wait, are they running directly into enemy fire?" asked a bewildered cadet with compound eyes. That's tactically absurd." "Indeed," Vex'thor nodded. "The Battle of the Somme. Over 1 million casualties in approximately 140 rotations of their planet. For context, that's more than the entire population of the Regellian homeworld." The cadets' amusement began to fade as the footage continued, showing the grim reality of trench warfare. The sheer scale of the conflict was difficult to process. "This can't be accurate," Calixer protested. "What could possibly motivate a species to sacrifice so many of their own?" Vex'thor's voice remained clinical. "Territory, resources, ideology, sometimes merely to demonstrate their capacity for destruction." The footage shifted to a different scene, the detonation of primitive atomic weapons. The cadets watched in silence as mushroom clouds bloomed over human cities. They used atomic weapons, on their own planet. Zrillax couldn't contain her shock. On their own species, twice in warfare, Vex'thor confirmed. And over 2,000 times in testing. They deliberately irradiated portions of their only habitable world. A nervous chittering spread through the lecture hall. The commander let it continue for a moment before raising an appendage for silence. "Perhaps you find their primitive atomic technology quaint. Let's move forward a few decades." The footage shifted to modern combat footage, drone strikes, guided missiles, urban warfare with advanced rifles. The clinical precision was somehow more disturbing than the earlier mass charges. "Note the efficiency of their killing technology," Vex'thor commented. "Despite their lack of energy weapons or anti-gravity, they've optimized projectile weapons to incredible lethality. Observe." The screen showed a human sniper eliminating a target from over 3 kilometers away, accounting for wind, planetary curvature, and atmospheric conditions, all with mechanical technology and organic computational power. That shot, Vex'thor noted, was made without AI assistance, without neural enhancement, without targeting implants. Just organic matter calculating trajectory. Cadet Zrillax found herself leaning forward, her multifaceted sensory organs fully dilated. Something about these humans triggered a primal response in her biology, a recognition of apex predator behavior. "Commander," she asked, "if their technology is so limited, why haven't we established contact? We could easily defend against these weapons." Vex'thor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "An excellent question, Cadet Zrillax. The answer lies not in their current capabilities, but in their rate of advancement and their creativity when cornered." The footage shifted again, this time to humans training in what appeared to be primitive hand-to-hand combat. "Now you might find this amusing," Vex'thor continued. "Their physical combat appears ritualistic and inefficient compared to our neural stun techniques. But observe closely." The footage showed humans practicing various martial arts, moving with unexpected grace despite their heavy skeletons and limited joint mobility. Humans have developed over 4,000 distinct combat styles, each specialized for different scenarios. More importantly, they train not to just defeat opponents, but to continue fighting while injured. Their pain tolerance is noteworthy. The commander manipulated his control pad, and the footage changed to what appeared to be some kind of violent sporting event. 2 humans in an enclosed space were striking each other repeatedly with padded appendages. "This is entertainment for them," Vex'thor explained. "They voluntarily engage in controlled combat for recreation. They celebrate those who can endure the most damage while continuing to function." "But sir," interrupted a tall, spindly cadet with bioluminescent patches, "this seems counterproductive from an evolutionary standpoint. Why would a species evolve to glorify damaging themselves? They didn't evolve this way, Cadet Luminox. They chose this path. Their entire history is a series of choices that prioritize domination over cooperation." The footage shifted to various human conflicts throughout history. Ancient battles with primitive bladed weapons, medieval siege engines, revolutionary warfare, modern terrorists, and special forces operations. The lecture hall had grown uncommonly quiet. The earlier amusement had evaporated entirely. One cadet near the front was rhythmically expanding and contracting his breathing sacs in obvious distress. Sir Calixer spoke again, his earlier confidence notably diminished. "These historical documents are concerning, but surely as they've advanced technologically, they've become more civilized." Vex'thor's eye ridge pulsed with a color that none of the cadets had seen before, something between amusement and dread. "An interesting theory, Cadet. Let's test it with their most recent military innovations." The holographic display shifted to show various advanced human military technologies, autonomous drone swarms, hypersonic missiles, cybernetic enhancement trials, and weaponized artificial intelligence systems. Despite being confined to one planet, they've developed military technologies that rival systems from civilizations with interstellar capabilities. And they've done so while still fighting among themselves. Zrillax felt her posture stiffen as the implications became clear. They haven't united as a species, yet they've achieved this level of military advancement. Correct, Cadet. And this brings us to the most critical aspect of human warfare, one that the High Command considers their most dangerous attribute. The commander paused, his gaze sweeping across the now silent lecture hall. Humans don't just wage war when necessary. They prepare for it constantly. They innovate specifically for it. While most species develop technologies for survival and later adapt them for conflict, humans often develop technologies specifically for warfare that are later adapted for civilian use. He gestured, and the display showed a montage of human military research facilities, testing grounds, and training centers, all buzzing with activity despite no immediate existential threat. Even now, with no external enemies, they maintain military budgets that consume significant portions of their planetary resources. They have enough weaponry stockpiled to exterminate their own species hundreds of times over. A cadet near the back suddenly rose and hurried toward the exit, their respiratory sacs pulsating rapidly. Cadet Mixler, you have not been dismissed, Vex'thor called out. Apologies, Commander, the cadet's voice wavered, but I require immediate depressurization. Vex'thor nodded curtly. Granted. Medical Bay is aware. As the door sealed behind the distressed cadet, the commander turned back to the class, his central eye ridge now glowing with intensity. That, cadets, is a perfectly normal reaction to your first extended exposure to human warfare documentation. I assure you, we haven't even begun to explore their true capacity for violence. Zrillax found herself gripping her data tablet so tightly that her claws had punctured the supposedly impenetrable surface. Something about these humans resonated with her, not because she admired their violence, but because she recognized in them the same drive that had pushed her from her humble outer colony origins to the elite academy. Persistence, determination, and the absolute refusal to accept defeat. Commander, she asked, what happens when a human army is completely outmatched technologically? Vex'thor's mandibles clicked in what might have been appreciation of the question. That, Cadet Zrillax, is precisely what we'll examine next, and it's why half of your predecessors who sat through this lecture subsequently resigned their commissions. Commander Vex'thor manipulated his control panel again, and the holographic display shifted to what appeared to be scattered, chaotic footage, humans in various terrains, vastly outnumbered and outgunned, yet employing tactics that defied conventional military logic. What you are about to witness are examples of asymmetric warfare, scenarios where humans face technologically superior forces or overwhelming numbers. Pay close attention to their adaptability. The first sequence showed humans in dense jungle terrain, setting elaborate traps for mechanized enemy forces. Primitive but lethal contraptions made of local materials, sharpened bamboo pits, tripwire explosives, and camouflaged fighting positions. The humans call this guerrilla warfare, Vex'thor explained. Note how they use the environment itself as a weapon. They don't attempt to match their enemy's firepower. They negate it entirely. A cadet with translucent skin raised a hesitant appendage. Commander, that tactic appears rational for a technologically inferior force. Many species would adopt similar approaches. Indeed, Cadet Quicks. But observe the psychological component. The footage shifted to show captured enemy soldiers, their expressions haunted by fear despite superior numbers and equipment. These enemy combatants weren't defeated by superior firepower. They were defeated by uncertainty, by the constant knowledge that death could come from any direction, at any moment, without warning. The humans didn't just attack bodies, they attacked minds. The room had grown noticeably tenser. Several cadets were exhibiting stress coloration in their epidermal layers. Sir, ventured Cadet Luminox, are we to understand that humans deliberately target psychological stability rather than strategic objectives? Both, Cadet, simultaneously. Vex'thor's eye ridge pulsed with approval at the question. Humans don't separate the physical battlefield from the psychological one. To them, breaking enemy morale is as valid a strategy as destroying enemy equipment. The footage continued, showing humans fighting in Arctic conditions, desert wastelands, and urban environments, each time adapting their tactics to exploit every possible advantage. Observe how they weaponize terrain that most species would consider uninhabitable, Vex'thor continued. Where others see obstacles, humans see tactical opportunities. The display showed soldiers crossing a turbulent river at night, scaling sheer cliffs to outflank enemies, and digging elaborate tunnel networks beneath active battlefields. They call it the suck, the commander said, using the human term with perfect pronunciation. Conditions of extreme discomfort, physical pain, and psychological stress that would incapacitate most sentient species. Humans not only endure these conditions, they train specifically to function within them. Zerlex felt her digestive cavity tighten, coming from the resource-scarce outer colonies. She understood survival under harsh conditions. But there was something fundamentally different about these humans. They didn't just survive adversity, they weaponized it. Commander, she found herself asking, do humans have biological adaptations that explain this tolerance for adverse conditions? Quite the opposite, Cadet Zerlex. Biologically, humans are remarkably fragile. No natural armor, limited regenerative capabilities, high oxygen dependency, narrow temperature tolerance. By all physiological metrics, they should be easy to defeat. The commander paused, his mandibles clicking rapidly, a sign of intense focus. Their advantage lies not in their bodies, but in their minds. Specifically, in a psychological trait they call spite. The holographic display shifted to show humans continuing to fight despite catastrophic injuries, soldiers applying field tourniquets to their own severed limbs before returning to combat, pilots with severe burns guiding damaged aircraft to crash into enemy positions, infantry continuing to advance despite being repeatedly wounded. A cadet near the center of the hall suddenly discharged stress pheromones, so potent that the environmental systems activated emergency ventilation. Permission to exit, Commander, the cadet choked out. Granted. As the distressed cadet departed, 3 others followed, their postures displaying clear signs of psychological distress. Vex'thor waited until the doors sealed, then continued as if nothing had happened. This brings us to perhaps the most disturbing aspect of human warfare, their concept of acceptable casualties. The footage shifted to show massive human armies advancing across open terrain, under withering enemy fire. Wave after wave fell, yet they continued forward. In the battle you're witnessing, the humans calculated that they would lose approximately 70% of their attacking force. They deemed this acceptable, because the remaining 30% would be sufficient to achieve their objective. Horrified chittering swept through the room. Sir, Clixor's voice had lost all of its earlier arrogance. Are you suggesting they deliberately sacrificed their own warriors when alternatives existed? Precisely, Cadet. In human military doctrine, personnel are resources to be expended, just like ammunition or fuel. They call it force conservation versus objective completion calculus. The commander's central eye ridge dimmed to a contemplative blue. Most species, including our own, structure military operations to minimize casualties while achieving objectives. Humans often invert this priority. They focus on achieving objectives regardless of casualties. The display shifted again, this time showing the aftermath of battles, field hospitals overflowing with wounded, mass grave preparations, and the hollow expressions of survivors. And yet, Vex'thor continued, observe their medical personnel. The footage zoomed in on human medical teams working frantically to save the wounded, often under continuing enemy fire, using primitive but ingenious techniques to stabilize injuries that would be fatal without immediate treatment. They devote enormous resources to saving their wounded, even when tactically irrational. They will risk additional casualties to recover their dead. This seeming contradiction, the willingness to expend lives coupled with the extreme measures to preserve them, lies at the heart of what makes human warfare so unpredictable. A cadet with gossamer wings and compound eyes vibrated anxiously. Commander, this seems pathologically inconsistent. How can a rational species function with such contradictory values? An excellent observation, Cadet Vex'thor, and it brings us to perhaps the most crucial aspect of human psychology. They compartmentalize. They can hold mutually exclusive ethical frameworks simultaneously, and switch between them based on context. The footage shifted to show human military units distributing food and medical supplies to civilian populations one day, then engaging in brutal combat operations in the same area the next. In the span of a single planetary rotation, the same human can perform acts of profound compassion and extreme violence, without experiencing cognitive dissonance. Our xenopsychologists still haven't determined how this is possible. By now, nearly a quarter of the cadets had left the lecture hall. Those remaining were utterly silent, their attention fixed on the disturbing footage with a mixture of horror and fascination. Sir, Zerlex spoke again, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. Given these observations, what is High Command's assessment of a potential conflict with humans? Commander Vex'thor's eye ridge shifted to a color none of the cadets had seen before, a deep resonant purple that bordered on black. The official assessment, Cadet is classified beyond this room. He paused, surveying the remaining students. But I am authorized to tell you that our most sophisticated conflict simulations suggest that even with our technological advantage, any protracted war with humanity would result in casualties beyond anything our society has ever experienced, or would tolerate. Nervous movement rippled through the audience. But surely, protested Cadet Luminox, our energy weapons, force fields and faster-than-light capabilities would what? Cadet Vex'thor interrupted. Give us an initial advantage, certainly. Allow us to occupy their major population centers, probably. But then what? The commander's voice took on an intensity that made several cadets recoil. Based on their history, humans would never submit to occupation, they would adapt. They would study our technology, reverse engineer what they could, and develop countermeasures for what they couldn't. They would transform their entire civilization into a resistance force. He manipulated his control pad again, and the display showed a montage of human resistance movements throughout their history, ordinary civilians transformed into effective combatants, using everyday items as weapons, coordinating complex operations with minimal resources. Every human would become a potential threat. There would be no front lines, no secure areas, and they would never stop. Not until they had exhausted every possible strategy, weapon and tactic. The commander's exoskeleton clicked as he shifted position. But I haven't yet shown you why High Command classifies humans as a potential existential threat. For that, we need to examine what humans call the last resort doctrine. The holographic display darkened, and warning glyphs appeared, indicating that the following content required special authorization. Commander Vex'thor input a complex security code, and the warnings dissolved. What you are about to see has been pieced together from intercepted communications, theoretical research, and predictive analysis. It represents our intelligence service's best understanding of humanity's approach to species-threatening scenarios. The display resolved to show schematics for weapons systems of almost unimaginable destructive potential, planet-cracking missiles, bioweapons designed to target specific genetic markers, autonomous drone swarms, programmed to self-replicate using available materials, orbital platforms designed to redirect asteroids. These weapons do not officially exist in human arsenals, Vex'thor explained, but our analysis indicates they have developed the theoretical frameworks and technical capabilities to produce them rapidly, if they perceived an existential threat. A cadet near the front, one who had remained stoically calm until now, abruptly stood, their breathing apparatus working overtime. Commander, are you suggesting that if we engaged humans militarily, they would employ weapons that could destroy their own habitat? No, Cadet Drex, I am stating explicitly that humans have a documented history of destroying their own environments to deny them to enemies. They call it scorched earth policy. The commander highlighted specific historical examples, defenders flooding their own farmlands, burning their own cities, and poisoning their own water supplies, rather than allowing them to benefit invaders. Applied to interspecies conflict, our models suggest a 78% probability that humans would deploy extinction-level countermeasures rather than accept defeat, even if those measures resulted in catastrophic damage to their own planet. Silence fell over the lecture hall, broken only by the soft hum of life support systems and the occasional stress click of cadet exoskeletons. And now, Commander Vex'thor said, his voice taking on an even more ominous tone, we come to the aspect of human warfare that prompted the establishment of the Do Not Approach Directive. The holographic display shifted one final time, showing a simple text document, a translation of what appeared to be a human military doctrine statement. This concept doesn't translate precisely into our language, the commander explained. The closest approximation is mutually assured destruction. It's the formalized policy that if humans face extinction from an outside force, they will ensure that force is also extinguished, regardless of cost. Zrilex felt a cold sensation in her nerve clusters as the implications became clear. She had come to the academy to learn how to protect her people, how to wage war effectively when necessary. But the humans, they had transformed warfare itself into something almost metaphysical, a willingness to transcend survival instinct in service of abstract principles. Commander, she asked, her voice barely audible, Have humans ever actually implemented this doctrine? No, Cadet, Vex'thor replied. But they have come perilously close on multiple occasions, not against external threats, but against themselves. The display showed historical footage of human leaders with access to world-ending weapons engaged in ideological standoffs, their primitive civilizations balanced on the edge of self-annihilation over differences in resource distribution systems or governance philosophies. They developed the capability to destroy their entire species, created formal protocols for doing so, and then chose not to. Not because they couldn't, but because they decided not to. Commander Vex'thor's eye ridge pulsed with a complex pattern of colors that conveyed a mixture of dread and respect, and that, Cadets, is why High Command considers humans uniquely dangerous. Not because they are especially violent, many species have violent tendencies. Not because they are technologically advanced, many civilizations surpass them, but because they possess a quality that our strategic algorithms cannot account for. He paused, surveying what remained of his class, less than half the original number, their postures showing various signs of distress and cognitive disruption. They make choices that defy logical prediction. They operate according to principles that sometimes transcend self-preservation, and they are capable of both the most sublime acts of compassion and the most terrible acts of destruction, sometimes simultaneously. Vex'thor manipulated his control pad one final time, and the holographic display shifted to show what appeared to be a simple human family sharing a meal, laughing together in their primitive dwelling. Remember this, Cadets, every one of these seemingly harmless creatures is descended from apex predators who conquered their planet through persistence hunting, literally chasing prey, until it collapsed from exhaustion. Every one of them carries genetic memory of existential threats, overcome through cooperation, innovation, and unfathomable determination. The commander's voice took on an almost reverential quality. And now, I will show you the footage that prompted the creation of this lecture series, the reason why, despite their primitive technology, humans are classified as a class of potential threat. Zrilex found herself gripping the edges of her station, her sensory membranes fully extended despite the discomfort of the intense stimulus. Around her, the remaining cadets exhibited similar signs of stress and fascination, unified in their horrified anticipation of what could possibly be worse than what they had already witnessed. Commander Vex'thor's eye ridge darkened to the deepest crimson as he activated the final sequence. This, Cadets, is what humans call the last stand. The holographic display flickered momentarily as Commander Vex'thor implemented the highest security protocols. The few remaining cadets watched as authentication sequences cascaded across the screen, indicating they were about to witness material that was restricted even within military circles. The footage you are about to see, Vex'thor said, his voice uncharacteristically solemn, was obtained at great cost. 3 intelligence operatives sacrificed themselves to transmit this data from Earth's information networks. The High Command deemed their sacrifice necessary after analyzing the content. The display resolved to show a small group of humans in tattered uniforms surrounded in what appeared to be the ruins of a city. They were greatly outnumbered by attacking forces, their supplies visibly depleted, many of them wounded. This scenario has played out countless times in human history, the commander explained. A small defensive force outmanned and outgunned, with no possibility of victory or escape. The footage continued, showing the desperate humans constructing makeshift fortifications from debris, distributing their limited ammunition, and treating their wounded with dwindling medical supplies. According to conventional military doctrine, our doctrine, these humans should surrender. Conservation of life is the rational choice when victory is impossible. Yet observe, the humans in the footage gathered around their leader, who appeared to be giving final instructions. Several embraced. Some made markings on their bodies or exchanged personal items. They are preparing for death, Vex'thor stated matter-of-factly, not just accepting its possibility, but embracing its certainty. The footage continued as the humans took their positions. What followed was not the one-sided massacre the cadets expected, but a display of such tactical ingenuity and suicidal determination that the lecture hall fell into stunned silence. The doomed humans used their environment with devastating effectiveness, collapsing structures onto advancing enemies, creating choke points that negated numerical advantages, deploying improvised explosive devices that seemed cobbled together from civilian materials. Note that they are not attempting to escape, the commander pointed out. Every action is designed to maximize enemy casualties, even at the cost of their own lives. The footage showed humans deliberately drawing enemy fire to reveal positions, using their own wounded bodies as bait for traps, and in one particularly disturbing sequence, a mortally wounded soldier detonating explosives strapped to his own body as enemies approached. Cadet Phlox's gelatinous form quivered violently before suddenly losing cohesion, spreading across the floor in a stress response so severe that the Academy's medical alert system activated automatically. 2 medical drones entered the hall and quickly encapsulated the liquefied cadet, removing them for emergency treatment. Commander Vex'thor paused the footage until the doors sealed again. What you're witnessing is what humans call fighting to the last man. When defeat is certain, instead of minimizing losses, they often choose to inflict maximum damage regardless of cost. The footage resumed, showing the human defenders gradually reduced in number, yet fighting with increasing ferocity rather than diminishing resolve. Observe their expressions, Vex'thor instructed, zooming in on the faces of the human combatants. This is not desperation, this is not fear, this emotional state translates approximately to defiance, a uniquely human characteristic. The alien cadets watched in horrified fascination as the humans, despite grievous injuries, continued fighting long past what should have been their biological limits. One by one they fell, each death seemingly purchased at an exorbitant cost to the attackers. Statistical analysis of historical human last stands indicates that defenders in these scenarios eliminate between 4 and 20 attackers per defender. The commander noted clinically. No other known sentient species approaches this ratio in similar circumstances. The footage showed the final human defender, severely wounded and out of conventional ammunition, charging directly into a group of enemies with nothing but a primitive bladed weapon, killing several before being overwhelmed. As the screen faded to black, text appeared, a translation of what had apparently been this unit's motto, "Death before surrender." The lecture hall erupted in stress responses, respiratory systems working overtime, color changes rippling through scales and exoskeletons, appendages trembling in involuntary threat reactions. This, Commander Vex'thor said into the chaos, is merely one example. Human history is replete with such incidents. The display began showing a rapid montage of similar scenarios from throughout human history, ancient warriors in bronze armor making suicidal charges, medieval defenders fighting to the death on castle walls, modern soldiers in hopeless urban combat, all exhibiting the same pattern of choosing maximum enemy casualties over self-preservation. 300 against thousands at Thermopylae, the Foreign Legion at Cameroon, the Rangers at Takur Gar. The list spans their entire history, across all cultures. It is not an aberration, it is a fundamental human characteristic. Cadets began rising from their stations in greater numbers, heading for the exits without even requesting permission. Commander Vex'thor made no attempt to stop them. Zrillax remained seated, her sensory organs fully engaged despite the discomfort. Something about these humans resonated with her in a way she couldn't articulate, not because she admired their violence, but because she recognized something profound in their refusal to yield. "Commander," she called out over the sound of departing cadets, "these scenarios show humans fighting other humans. Would they exhibit the same behavior against a non-human enemy?" Vex'thor focused his central eye ridge on her with clear approval. "An excellent question, Cadet Zrillax. The answer appears to be yes, but with a crucial difference." The display shifted to show simulated scenarios based on predictive models, humans facing various alien species in combat situations. Our behavioral analysis suggests that against non-human opponents, human resistance would be even more pronounced. Their tribal divisions, which currently fragment their military responses, would likely dissolve in the face of an external threat. The simulation showed human military forces from different nations, previously in conflict with each other, unifying against the new enemy. Furthermore, they exhibit a psychological trait they call dehumanization, the ability to categorize enemies as fundamentally different from themselves, which removes normal ethical constraints on warfare. Klixer, one of the few remaining cadets, chittered anxiously. "Are you suggesting they would consider us less than sentient, not necessarily less sentient, Cadet, but certainly less deserving of ethical consideration?" Throughout their history, humans have proven remarkably adept at justifying extreme measures against those they perceive as sufficiently other. More cadets stood to leave, their postures showing clear signs of psychological distress. Soon only a handful remained, Zrillax, Klixer, Luminox and 2 others, whose rigid attention suggested either remarkable fortitude or complete shock. Commander Vex'thor surveyed the nearly empty lecture hall with grim satisfaction. "This outcome is consistent with previous presentations. Those of you who remain have demonstrated exceptional psychological resilience. Note that this will be recorded in your service profiles." He manipulated his control pad once more, and the holographic display shifted to show a set of classified military protocols. What you see before you is the Unified Star System's official containment strategy for humanity, designated Operation Distant Shore. Its primary directive is elegantly simple: avoid contact at all costs. The remaining cadets studied the protocols with professional interest, their earlier horror now tempered by analytical detachment. But sir, Luminox ventured, these protocols allocate an extraordinary amount of resources to monitoring a single planet. Nearly 8% of our deep space surveillance network is dedicated to Earth alone. This seems disproportionate. Does it, Cadet? Vex'thor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Consider what you've witnessed today. Then consider this final piece of information. The display showed a graph tracking human technological development over time, with particular emphasis on weapons technology. Unlike the smooth gradual curves typical of most species' advancement, the human line showed explosive, exponential growth concentrated around periods of conflict. Humans advance most rapidly when at war, the commander explained. Not despite conflict, but because of it. They have progressed from primitive chemical explosives to rudimentary nuclear fusion in less than 300 cycles. No other known species has achieved comparable advancement without external assistance. Zrillax felt her primary heart flutter as the implications became clear. If this trend continues, precisely, Cadet, extrapolating from their current trajectory, humans will develop interstellar travel within 50 cycles. Their first encounters with alien life will occur while they still possess their warrior culture, their factional divisions, and their unique psychological traits. The commander's central eye ridge pulsed with an intensity that made even the remaining cadets recoil slightly. And that, future officers of the Unified Star Systems, is why half your classmates will likely resign their commissions by tomorrow's dawn cycle. Because they now understand what we face, not an immediate threat, but an inevitable one. A species that turns disadvantage into victory, that converts defeat into costly Pyrrhic triumph, that would rather die fighting than live submitting. Vex'thor surveyed the few remaining cadets, his gaze lingering on Zrillax. Those of you who remain, you are now part of a select group entrusted with the most critical security protocol in our civilization's history, ensuring that humanity remains blissfully unaware of our existence for as long as possible. The commander deactivated the holographic display, and the lights returned to normal illumination. The abrupt transition from the visceral horror of human warfare to the sterile academic environment created a cognitive dissonance that left even the remaining cadets disoriented. This concludes today's lecture, Vex'thor announced. The Academy's psychological support units have been placed on high alert, and I strongly encourage all of you to report for evaluation, regardless of how well you believe you've processed this information. As the remaining cadets gathered their belongings in stunned silence, the commander added one final observation. Before you leave, consider this: what you've witnessed today is not meant to instill fear, but respect. Humans are not monsters, they are survivors, perhaps the ultimate survivors. They have elevated struggle itself into a virtue, transformed adversity into advantage. His mandibles clicked in a pattern that conveyed grudging admiration. In many ways they are not unlike us, or what we once were, before we achieved unity and interstellar civilization. Perhaps, given time, they too will outgrow their violent tendencies. Until then, we watch, we wait, and we prepare. As the lecture hall emptied, Zrillax remained at her station, her sensory membranes still processing the flood of information. The commander approached her, moving with the deliberate precision characteristic of veteran warriors. You have questions, Cadet Zrillax. It wasn't a query but an observation. Yes, Commander, she admitted. But not about humans. Vex'thor's eye ridge shifted to a questioning amber hue. I'm curious why you showed us this, Zrillax continued. Not just the footage, but your own respect for these primitives. It seems contrary to military protocol to foster admiration for a potential enemy. The commander's exoskeleton clicked as he settled into a more relaxed posture. An astute observation, Cadet. Perhaps the answer lies in what I haven't shown you today. 57%, Commander. 57% of the third cycle cadets have submitted resignation requests. Provost Admiral Zinthara loomed over Vex'thor, vibrating with fury. This exceeds even last cycle's record of 43%. With respect, Admiral, I follow the curriculum approved by High Command, Vex'thor replied. Posture military perfect despite the verbal assault. If the results are unsatisfactory, perhaps the selection criteria require adjustment. Don't be obtuse. Multiple cadets reported you displayed admirations for these primitives. I displayed respect for a worthy potential adversary. There is a distinction. After the tense meeting, Vex'thor found Cadet Skrillex waiting outside. Commander, you mentioned something you hadn't shown us, something beyond the footage. Perceptive cadet. Yes. Vex'thor lowered his voice. Have you accessed the files on the Proxima expedition? Only the official record. The mission was declared lost due to stellar phenomena. A convenient explanation. The truth is classified beyond even today's lecture clearance. Vex'thor's eye ridge pulsed with remembered tension. The Proxima expedition wasn't destroyed by stellar phenomena. They encountered humans. But humans don't have interstellar capability. The encounter occurred in what humans call the Kuiper Belt. A research team detected unusual signals and found a primitive human craft, damaged and adrift. 3 humans were in suspended animation. What happened? They revived one human to establish communication. The human seemed cooperative initially, then it managed to transmit an encrypted signal toward Earth before being restrained. A distress call, Skrillex surmised. Precisely. Within hours, sensors detected multiple high-velocity military craft launched from Earth. Before the expedition could depart, the human escaped containment. Vex'thor's eye ridge darkened. One unarmored human, against a security team of 6 trained officers. And the human killed 4 security officers, disabled critical navigation systems, and nearly reached the ship's armory before being neutralized. The damage delayed departure long enough for the approaching human craft to visually confirm our existence. They know, humans know they're not alone. Some humans know, specifically their military leadership. No public announcement has been made. Vex'thor led Skrillex to a specialized simulation chamber displaying Earth-like terrain. This is the Human Combat Response Simulator, the most sophisticated opponent modeling system in the Academy. We use this to identify which of our tactical approaches would be least effective against humans. So far, the list is alarmingly comprehensive. The simulation showed human fighters demonstrating remarkable adaptability against superior alien technology. High Command has authorized me to select candidates for a specialized program, Cadet, a program designed not to combat humans, but to understand them. You're recruiting me. Your performance during today's lecture, your background in adaptive survival environments, and your academic records suggest you are ideal. The program involves advanced study of human culture and potential deployment to observation posts within their solar system. What's the program designation? Officially, Xenop Psychological Strategic Assessment Initiative. Unofficially, Project Cassandra, after the human prophet no one believed. Precisely, we believe humans represent either the greatest threat or opportunity our civilization has encountered in millennia. As Skrillex considered the offer, she realized her perspective had shifted from fear to something unexpected. Curiosity. What would it be like to meet these perplexing creatures who had elevated struggle into an art form, who had transformed their fragility into strength? And somewhere in the Secure Command section, Commander Vex'thor updated his report to High Command. Suitable candidate identified for Project Cassandra. Preliminary evaluation, exceptional. Ambassador Skrillex adjusted her diplomatic regalia as the massive doors to Earth's United Planetary Council chamber prepared to open. Project Cassandra had evolved from preparation for potential conflict to coordinating humanity's first official contact with galactic civilization. Nervous, Ambassador? Asked Commander Vex'thor, now serving as her security chief. Wouldn't you be? After studying them for a decade, we're finally meeting humans on their terms. Remember your training. Their psychological profiles suggest, I know, unpredictability is their defining trait. The doors parted. Hundreds of human representatives rose in unison, their faces displaying not fear or aggression but genuine wonder and enthusiasm. The chamber erupted in welcoming applause. The human Secretary General approached with open hands, a gesture Skrillex recognized as peaceful intent. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, welcome to our world. We've awaited this day since our deep space vessels first glimpsed your kind. We come in friendship and hope for shared knowledge. As the carefully choreographed diplomatic exchange proceeded, Skrillex found herself continually surprised. These humans displayed none of the aggression from the Academy footage. They were curious, respectful, even deferential. During a brief recess, she confronted Vex'thor in a secure chamber. They're nothing like our simulations predicted. Where's the suspicion, the territorial displays, the implicit threats? Vex'thor's mandibles clicked in what she now recognized as amusement. Did you expect them to greet an advanced alien civilization with hostility? That would be tactically unsound, but the Academy lectures were entirely accurate. Vex'thor's eye ridge pulsed knowingly. What you're witnessing is humanity's greatest weapon, not their capacity for violence, but their capacity for duality. Understanding dawned on Skrillex. They're peaceful when peace benefits them and ferocious when ferocity is required. Precisely. Their history isn't a chronicle of violence, it's a testament to adaptation. Their leaders understand the advantages of galactic integration, but make no mistake, on a nearby screen, human news networks covered the historic meeting. One showed military vessels maintaining discreet positions in high orbit. Another displayed celebrations in major cities. A third interviewed a human military official who smiled pleasantly while stating, "We welcome our new galactic neighbors with open arms," while remaining vigilantly prepared for any contingency. The Academy lecture wasn't designed to prepare us for conflict with humans, Skrillex realized. It was to ensure we'd never underestimate them. Half your classmates resigned because they couldn't reconcile the contradictions, a species capable of both unfathomable violence and remarkable compassion. Those who remained understood what you now see firsthand. The diplomatic chime sounded, signaling their return to negotiations. "Come, Ambassador," Vex'thor said. "You're about to witness humanity's true superpower, their ability to become whatever they need to be to survive and thrive." As they re-entered the council chamber, the human Secretary General greeted Skrillex with a warm smile that contained just the faintest hint of knowing calculation. "I hope you found our facilities comfortable, Ambassador. We're eager to continue discussions about cultural exchange, trade agreements, and of course, mutual defense arrangements." Skrillex felt both her hearts skip a beat at the phrase subtle implications. The Secretary General leaned slightly closer, voice lowered. "Just between us, Ambassador, we were quite impressed with how thoroughly your people have been monitoring our development. Your cloaking technology is remarkable, though not quite perfect." Behind her diplomatic poise, Skrillex finally understood why the Academy lecture had been necessary, and why Operation Distant Shore had ultimately failed. Humans hadn't just been observed, they had been watching back, and they had been preparing, in their uniquely human way, for this moment all along.